We all live in a system at the moment, and a system, in my opinion, is a bad system. It's not a system that seems to be working for people, for humans. It seems somehow or other we've devised a system, or we've acquiesced to a system that seems controlling and enslaving. I'll tell you what I mean. You see, right from birth, we register ourselves into a corporate world, this corporate Britain that I refer to quite a lot. But it's across the world. These corporations that are running the world now somehow, in my opinion, this has got out of control. The corporations are running everything, and they seem anti-human. We have governments that are corporations, that they now dictate in the guise of democracy, in the guise of a free state here in the West. But it seems to me that although people vote for a bunch of people who are supposed to be administrating the government and making life easier for people, in fact, they're making life more restrictive and putting people into a very narrow band of how they can live their lives. And as well as that, they're charging extortionate amounts of money or having influence on other corporations that charge extortionate amounts of money, so that just to stand still, just to live, you've got to work extra hard and earn this fiat currency, this debt-based currency that depreciates all the time, in order just to be able to stand in a meadow and look at the sunset and the flowers around you and relax. We see this, and I think when you see the animals, the hares and the bunnies gambling in the fields, the foxes and the badgers, the deers and the wild animals, none of them pay. None of them pay just to exist. Why is it humans, that people have made a system that seems to put them in ever more tinier boxes in which a small number of people get to govern a larger number of people and tell them what to do, how to think, what they can say, what they can put online, how they are supposed to react, where they can park, how much their house is worth, how much they have to pay for the council, how much the fuel duty is on petrol they put in their car. And yet the people, the majority of these people, just acquiesce, bow down and say, yes, no, we love being slaves. We love being told what to do. We love the fact that you guide us and rule over us. And we somehow have this veneer that we're free. And we're in this system in which blatantly, can you not see that we are not free? We're not free to say what we like. We're not free just to put a roof over our head and not be expected to pay something. That if we drive down the road and inadvertently go a little bit faster in an area that perhaps has been guided to us or told, dictated that it's got to be a certain speed limit, and a camera clocks us in the middle of the night, and now we have to pay a fine. This is so anti-human. I'm not saying that we shouldn't live with some guidance that we all obey or agree to. Guidance that driving, for example, on the left-hand side of the road, if everyone does that, then at least when you're driving on the road, you're not going to go and make a head-on collision with somebody coming the other way. Guidance that perhaps in this area it's a good idea to slow down a bit, but does it have to be so extremely penal that we need signs telling us absolutely the top limit that you need to drive. And if you go a couple of miles an hour over that, you are going to be fined and then go to naughty school or possibly have your license removed. I mean, what system is this? It's so anti-human. This is a system that has built up and crept up over decades, centuries, in which we find ourselves ever more in this maze like a rat, desperately trying to work out what it is we are actually allowed to do. And yet all these fines, all these misdemeanors, all these so-called rapping our knuckles for doing something wrong has been set by other people. And it's all been set to supposedly make our lives better. But it isn't better. It isn't better. As I say, it's anti-human. And the reason it's anti-human is because it's set up by dead entities that are not human. Corporations. The office of the Prime Minister is a corporation. The government is a corporation. The councils are corporations. They exist on a piece of paper in a filing cabinet somewhere. They exist as a piece of data on a computer. They're registered on places like Dun and Bradstreet so that you can see how much and financial system it is about. It isn't actually a body of people doing good work for other people. These corporations, this system, employs living men and women, employs people to operate for the dead entity, this piece of paper. It isn't real, it doesn't breathe, but some of these employees are working the system, the 1%, work these corporations to their advantage, and the other 99% are the ones who are being taxed or being penalised for driving the car in the wrong place at the wrong time, or parking in the wrong place, or a little bit delayed in paying certain bills. And the whole acts and statutes and the legislation and the court system is there. Again, all for profit corporations that are there to penalise the humans, the people, the men and women who live on this planet or in this country. And it's a system that we have said, oh, okay, we'll just go along with, because we haven't got the balls to stand up and say, actually, do you know what? I don't want to live in this system, thank you very much, in which when I have a roof over my head and I buy a house, you automatically just send me a bill and you call it a council tax, and you say that what this bill is for is to help pay for the municipal services in the town I live. And you don't tell me that this money is actually going to a different pot at central government and is actually being used to fund terrorism or war or the killing of innocent people in different countries. You don't tell me that. And you also don't tell me that there is legislation that says actually it is illegal to fund anybody who is funding war or terrorism. So actually it makes the paying of the council tax something that is against the law, and you could in fact go to court for funding somebody, a body, a corporate body that goes to war and is providing terrorism, which would be the government. I mean, it's a nonsense. This is a system that is running against us and not for us. And more I cannot understand why myself and the others just acquiesce and say, no, it's fine. We don't mind if a government who's voted in, apparently, freely by the people, will change their promises, will mandate certain medical interventions which have not been properly and thoroughly tested for, say, 5 to 10 years to see what the results are. And if the results aren't very good and people are harmed or they're dying by it, this same government will not even respond to that, will not talk about it, will not now, with the online safety bill, allow other people to talk about it or question it. And so the system turns in to George Orwell's 1984 Big Brother system, and people just acquiesce. It seems people are completely and utterly blind. Now, there are some people who are saying, I want out of this system. I don't want to be part of this. I don't have to be part of this. This is a construct that some people have made that other people think have to be lived in. And of course, it's true. We don't have to live in this system. We are, in fact, free people, if only we would recognize the fact that this is a system that we do not have to acquiesce to, we don't have to agree to it, and we can get out of it. If only we understood that we are not slaves, we consent to the slavery by acquiescing, by agreeing to it, by being contracted, agreeing to the contract that we are part of it. And there are ways to get out of the system. There's what I would call the I'm all right, Jack system, in which some people can manage with clever thinking and understanding that if you write lots of letters, paperwork about the legal fiction, claim your executorship to a trust that's been set up in your name, you can in fact get out of the system. And I'll explore that. The reason I call that the I'm all right, Jack system is because it is in many ways, it's an individual, somewhat selfish system. Of course, if everybody did it, it would be advantageous, but it takes a huge leap of faith to get out of that. For me, it seems much more easier for people to completely understand that they just want to walk away and not be part of any of this man-made system with its acts and statutes and all of that nonsense, and just simply agree to self-rule, if you like. I mean, the land on this planet, we know the Crown, in theory, own the land in Britain. And you say to yourself, well, who gave it to them? Did God give it to them? And where's the proof of that? Who gave them permission to own the land? Oh yes, they took it by brute force, by menaces and threats, and kept people down. That's not proper, real, genuine ownership. Nobody owns the land. Nobody owns these things that they're extracting the money from you. Of course they don't. And if people start to wake up and realize that actually that we as individuals, as sovereign people, have the divine right to live freely without tyranny, without government telling us how we should live, but that we may, as people, gather together and decide the rules and guidance that we could try as best we can without too much punitive tyranny on top of, to abide by. If we can agree to certain parameters, we could remain free. And so that if there is a misdemeanor, or if there is a genuine crime in which somebody is harmed, that there is actually a victim, not somebody parked somewhere for a few moments and it went over the time, or you drove a couple of miles an hour over a certain speed limit and that's just a means to extract money from you. No, but there's actually a real victim who's been hurt, whether that's mentally or physically, or they have had, somebody's parked over their driveway so they can't get out and go to work. That would, in my book, would be a harm, perhaps a stupid something by somebody else, by not thinking and doing an error. That's fine. But the claimant can say, well, look, I have been harmed by that because I couldn't get to work because I couldn't get the blooming car out of my drive, thanks to somebody not thinking. That to me is a reason to then have a claim. And that claim, yes, would go to a court, but not one of these private bar guild courts, which is there to extract money from us and make out that the jurisdiction is against you. But a court of your peers, a court in which you assemble, say 12 just men and women of your peers, and the judge, such as he is really just a convener to convene those people together, but the jury, those 12 people, would listen to the claimant, they would listen to the defence, they would talk amongst themselves and come to a decision, not only whether the person parking over the drive or whatever the problem was, whatever the claimant's problem was, and they would come up with a remedy for that, not just whether the person was thought badly and parked stupidly or actually hurt someone or caused an offence or whatever it might be, or whether the guidelines, the rule, or you could say the law, is an ass. Maybe the law needs a bit of tightening up or relaxing, so that those people would be judge and jury, not the judge, the jury would be judging and coming up with the solution. 12 people of your peers. To me, that seems a fairer system. They've taken an oath to do their duty. One oath, not two, not a secret oath to the bar guild, to the Roman courts, to a tyrannical system. No, all of that goes. To me, in order to get this country in which we can have freedom, genuine 100% freedom, we must get rid of the tyranny of this rule, this legislative, this acts and statutes, this government, this crumbling government of tyranny and dictatorship. There are more of us, and we simply have to turn around and say, enough. That system is fraudulent, it's corrupt, and it's dead in the water. It's dead because it's a corporation. It's not really for the benefit of humans. It's anti-humans. It's time it went. And that collectively, that we unite, we set up our own alternative governments. We set up our own administrative, whether that be shadow councils, and we work on our own system and we turn our backs and we make those other systems absolutely irrelevant. And the more of us that do this, the more of us that perhaps take our money out of the banks and we put them into better things like gold and silver, that we get out of the debt currency. We tell them we don't care about having permission to do everything all the time, permission to drive your car, permission to park it in a certain place on the road, permission to use a note to buy things. All the time, permission. We are free, sovereign people. Let's change that system. Let's get rid of that old system and let's embark on a new sovereign Britain where we are free and are not under the thumb of this tyrannical, dictating, corporate, permission-based system that's penalising us all the time.